Alrighty, I think we're going. Welcome back to another one of these things where we're just kind of talking about whatever comes to mind. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday, almost at the end of a week. And that's pretty cool. I feel like I've been watching a lot of stuff this week. One of the things that I do kind of want to get into today, because it made me think a bit about the last video that I'd put up about recognizing the literacy in everything. And that was really more me diving into this notion that there's a surprising amount of depth in just about any topic that you can cover or think about. Just like any concept, really. I think what I was talking a lot about there was kind of like how I learned like video game design and gameplay and experience, and how that related to what I'm currently learning with environmental science. But there was a video that came out yesterday from good old Vsauce that has been making me think about that video in a slightly different way. First off, I just want to say, like, Vsauce is just so good at doing videos. I can't, like, Michael's just so good at, well, one, being a just really quirky on camera. Like, it's not just like the editing that they do. He just does a really good job of just having a really quirky presence without having to do too much. He's just very good at being his own kind of weirdness without being particularly strange or off-putting. I feel like some of his older stuff might have been weird. I think he's licked a fair amount of stuff that would probably be a bit strange, but not really talking about like his personality and what he brings to the videos, though I do feel like that's a pretty important thing. But just how like those videos are usually structured. Like normally when I'm thinking about like the video essay, I'm thinking of a very linear progression of things, and we're making it to this conclusion together, or we're at least taking some very well-known path, and we're just going to be hitting like certain bullets along the way, which is kind of what Vsauce videos do. It doesn't feel so much like a straight path to where we're wanting to go as much as it is just like this winding spiral that's like working its way towards something, but we're not sure what we're really going to arrive at all the time. And there are going to be a lot of points around this like winding spiral where it's just like, I think we hit like, it's like there is a line that that's being followed, but like the path we're following is like, okay, we're going to go off the path for a bit and then we're going to go back on. And we've made it a little bit further and a little bit further, a little bit further. And eventually we'll make it to this conclusion together. But it doesn't always quite feel like we're getting closer to that conclusion as the video progresses, but we do end up feeling like we got there. Like these videos have a really good way of making me feel like, you know what? I think I walked away from that understanding something and feeling something from watching this video, but I feel like I could either solidify or learn something that I missed by watching it again. There are so many Vsauce videos that I have gone back and watched again because of that, where it's just like, I feel like there might have been something that he went over toward the beginning of the video, that he said something later in the video that just was just like my aha moment for the concept, and I can go back and be like, yeah, I totally get that now. He just does a really good job of doing that. And that's really no different with the video that he put up yesterday, I believe. I think it was called The Future of Reasoning. And it's really just like an in-depth look at how people think and why we think the way we do and why we have the flaws in our thoughts that we have. And it's interesting, like, when you think about it, it's like, well, why do we think? Why do people reason? What is this thing that we think of? It's like, if I'm just thinking rationally, then I'll be able to come to some sort of truth. And like, we think of that these days, but that's not how it always has been. In fact, it's likely never really been that way. It's a tool that humans use to justify certain things that they almost certainly already know, to convince others that it's what we should be doing going forward. That reasoning isn't so much a path to truth as it is a path to convincing others that what you want to do is the thing that we should do. That reasoning isn't something to like hit something with and that's like, yep, that's the rational thing to do. It's a thing that you can use to kind of cajole somebody instead of not just strike them with the truth. It's to be like, this is how I'm thinking, this is my experience and why I think this could work. And your bit of your experience going into that can be used to influence other people's ideas about that concept as well. And you're convincing people to sort of come to where you are. Not that necessarily where they're coming from is not true. It's just both of you have a way to go about something. I think one of the things that he was using was just like two people are like, yeah, I'm hungry and want to go somewhere for food or want something for food. And it's like, let's go to this place. And it's like, okay, I have this, like, they have this great burger joint. And the other person's like, well, I already had burgers, so I'm not really wanting that. Well, that's okay. They have a bunch of other stuff. Well, I'm not looking to spend a lot of money. Well, that's fine. They're really cheap and I have a coupon. Type of thing. Both of you are wanting to have food, and you're using various reasons to talk each other into some way of saying, let's go do this thing or let's go do something else. And it's not that you're wrong about something. It's that you're both using reasoning to talk to each other about which thing you're going to do in this moment and how that might impact like the very immediate future. And that's kind of interesting that the concept that was the overarching concept where like all of this kind of spiral path that we took like through the entire video ended up landing us in a spot where it's just people don't reason to find truth. People use reason to be social successfully. And that's kind of interesting. So that got me thinking a bit about the last video that I made, recognizing the literacy of everything. I had to look back over there and check. And there was a feeling that I described in that video where I've talked about it here a bit, that I'm currently learning a bit about environmental sciences. That for some reason, I want to be a more effective communicator and help people learn more about how our planet works. And I'm doing that by way of me learning it. I'm using my learning experience and trajectory to teach others, or at least have them learn alongside me. I probably wouldn't call myself a teacher right now. It's really just I'm finding all of these neat little tidbits of information and looking up how things work, and I want to share that with people. And it's really more sharing my learning experience than it is sharing my current knowledge. It's sharing what I have just currently learned with other people, which is a neat way to learn. I haven't really, or to spread knowledge. I haven't really done that in the past, so it's a bit of a new experience for me. But when I was talking about that, when I am talking like even like on like in this format, I tend to reach a point where I'm talking about something where I feel like I'm out of things to say, and I start rehashing or doing a little bit of rambling about something that I had already discussed. And it's something that I hadn't run into when I was studying music or when I talk about video games. These are things that I learned largely through experience over the course of my life, where with environmental science, I'm doing more, I shouldn't say like I didn't do active research. A lot of how I lived went into how I learned video games and how I learned music and how I learned programming and software engineering. So this really isn't that different. I'm still actively teaching myself, but I'm doing it in a way where I'm building a website where I'm doing a lot of research on my own, and then I share that research that I do with other people. The way I'm being social about it is different. It's more looking for things, sharing those things, as opposed to just growing up and being in the experience of games and talking about games with other people and sharing that with other people. Or with music, where I was at a university for 4 years and it was like literally all I was studying, and that's like all anybody that I was around wanted to talk about was music. That they were just different experiences for how to learn something. And I realized that there's a bit of overlap with what the latest Vsauce video is discussing, that to get to a better understanding of something, to find a good path forward by putting yourself into this social arena, to, it's not even like, it is to convey your thought, but it's kind of to just swoosh around all of the thought that's in like this area, and then you just absorb other people's experiences about that concept, is how I learned a lot of the other three things that I know and would consider myself literate enough to speak candidly about, without necessarily having a script in front of me, which I do kind of for this. It's that arena, for that space, for being able to learn, not to always be right. Like when I'm talking with other people about games, or I'm talking with other people about music, it's not my goal to be right about something, at least not all the time. Like there are going to be some cases where people will say something that I'm just like vehemently disagree with, and like just outright saying that certain genres of music aren't music, or certain genres of art aren't art. If somebody says like, you know, video games aren't art, just like come at me, video games are art, and I'm going to convey why that is. I'm going to start reasoning with you why that is, and the core of that is to be right. But there are certainly plenty of examples where it's just, I don't know where this conversation is taking me. I just have these thoughts in my head, and I want to get them out into a space with other people so that they can take those thoughts and sort of put them through a bit of the human cognitive machine, and out comes a hopefully slightly better understanding of things. It's why I like doing software engineering work in team. I have an idea, and one of my favorite feelings is I have this idea, I put it out there, and a bunch of other smart people talk about it, and they might not agree with it. And we'll talk about it a bit using our reasoning back and forth, and on the other side of it, we have a better solution, better than any one person can come up with. And that's the power of working reasonably in a small group. We do it all the time. It's really effective. But one of the things that is kind of interesting about where we're at now, and this kind of comes back to the video that I made on Tuesday. At this point, I keep forgetting what day of the week we're at. I just said we're on Thursday, so I should remember that. I started the video knowing we're on Thursday. I should know that we're on Thursday. That the feeling I get from not always knowing, or feeling like I'm running out of things to say, might be, I think it's definitely partly because I'm still learning. Like I can't just offload this on being like, the method of my learning is what's making me slow. It's that I just started this. Learning things takes years. And anybody who's learning new stuff has to recognize this. If you're looking to get better at something, you're going to be spending years doing that. And you can't just blame how you're learning it. Like, why don't I know this in like 6 months? You're not going to. It's kind of like anything that's like, you're going to learn a new language in 6 months. You're going to learn some vocabulary in 6 months, and you're going to learn how to speak this language over the course of years. That's just how that works. But how we these days, it feels like there's an expectation to have opinions on a lot of things. Almost everything. When somebody asks you a question and you don't have a response about that thing, it doesn't feel like society is particularly happy with you about that. And it turns a lot of us into these lone reasoners, where we're using a tool that has a history of being a social construct, something that you don't normally do on your own, but even if you did it on your own, you're usually supposed to bring that back to other people so that it can be workshopped and you have this better concept coming out of it that then you can further reason after that and you keep growing afterwards. But that's not really where we're at, because we have this kind of double-edged sword here where, one, you have to know something about everything, and two, we don't think reasoning is a tool to get to a better place, but a tool to know the truth. So if somebody disagrees with you, they don't think that you're reasoning, they think that you're irrational. And that can be kind of harmful. If we realize that us reasoning on our own is counter to why we developed this skill to begin with, to be able to use all of our skills and have humans develop this wide range of skills that we have. Like, I can, to some extent, do mechanical work on my car. I have done that in the past. Do I want to do that anymore? Is that knowledge that I feel I have particularly a lot of use for? No. Has it saved me a little bit of money when I needed to be saving money? Yes, it has. It's a valuable skill, but it's not one that I am a master of. I don't want people coming to me with those kinds of questions. I want them coming to me for the skills that I have worked on a lot, the things that I have become literate in, the things that I want to become literate in. And I can get away with that, choosing to dismiss some type of logic or some type of concept or the depth of knowledge in a concept because I trust that some other part of humanity is going to excel in that mastery. There are going to be a lot of mechanics out there, and we don't have to know how to do everything. We can go talk to other parts of the human mind and have them work on a car for us. Or in like my case, somebody can come to me and be like, I need a song written, or I need a new program written, or I need a new video game to play. Art's a little different there. But there's us treating reasoning differently over the course of time as a hammer of truth. Doesn't really work with how it got us to where we are. And it was kind of neat, like, seeing that, having it presented in the way that Vsauce just does. And it's just really, really good. And I can't emphasize enough just how good Michael's videos are. Go check it out. I'll link the video in the description. If you're here, chances are you've already seen it, and the algorithm thinks that because it's in the description this is worth watching too. But, like, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you watched it once, highly recommend watching it again, because I do really think it's one of those types of formats where you watch it once and the second time it's just like, aha, I now get another thing at the beginning of the video. It's really good. But having somebody come to you with that thought process and basically saying, well, we have this idea of what this concept is, in this case, reasoning. But what is it really? How has it gotten us where we are? And are we still using that tool correctly? And that frame of mind made me think about how I feel about some other feelings that I'm feeling about right now with regards to not wanting to say as much about something because I don't think I have the full picture. when in reality, that might just be this medium. That might just be because I feel like I'm talking at something. I have a little bit of a platform, not like a platform in like a large audience or anything, but like I'm just talking in front of a camera. The only thing that it feels like right now, to my brain at least, is that I am talking in a room with myself, and I've done my research and I know my reasoning and I know I've reached an end, and I can say something to this camera, but it's not going to say something back to me. I'm the kind of person who wants to reason with other people and find better solutions. And when I don't put myself in that space, then I think that's probably how I end up tending to not really lose a train of thought, but run out of tracks for that thought to run on. It's kind of interesting. I learned a little bit about myself even from that. And maybe just finding other ways to engage in learning. Environmental sciences might be something that I have to work with in my near future. Not that I don't like talking to other people about it. When I go do volunteer work, I'm usually talking about like botany or ecology with other people, the stewards and other volunteers who've been there for a while. So I do have an aspect of that. It's just not how I'm doing stuff for like the Prismatic Planet website, where I do a lot of my research and I'm usually just trying to find a conclusion that I already generally know. I still learn new things, but it's like not the same. It's just not the same as talking with other people and getting a different experience and a different way of thinking like thrown at you, and you have to process that and then give your own, and then you both have a greater shared experience of the world after that. It's just not the same as looking stuff up online. Like, what am I going to search for? All the stuff that I already know, and then I'm going to fall into another bias where I anchor to the first thing that I see, and then all subsequent stuff that I've looking up is like geared toward that first thing that I found. There's so many things that, as Michael points out, are just like they're biases when you're doing them by yourself. But when you're working with other people and reasoning is a social event, then you might actually be saving a lot of time. But yeah, I thought it'd be neat just to kind of dive into that. It's not terribly often that I find like another video online that just makes me think a little bit more and reflect on something that I just recently made. So if you want to see what I was thinking on the literacy of everything, then go check that out too. But this kind of covers it a little bit. But yeah, hope you're having a wonderful Thursday, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.